One of the things people want to do is push, economic stuff to the left. Dorsey, can we watch this clip, which is an endorsement of universal basic income coming from a less likely source?
Plus, a push in Sacramento to provide a universal basic income to foster children as they age out of the system and try to make a go on their own.
What do you think, Jordan, I'm going to ask you this first, about some of these progressive ideas being tried in these little ways? Like you can see Bernie, being like, why don't we try a little bit of Medicare for all just for vaccination relief, and we'll see if people like it or not. What do you think about this as a toe in the water for universal basic income?
I think going back to what Mike said real quick is that, Democrats don't want to use power, and I think it goes beyond Biden. I don't think the people who are in the Senate necessarily want to use that power, even if it's not just Manchin and Sinema, right? They are the faces of obstructionism. They're the faces of filibustering. They're the faces of all that. We need to elect Democrats that want to use power. And I think that's our problem right now. We don't have enough of those people. Of course, we can try and pressure them. I'm all for doing that. But that's the fundamental problem. And when we look at things like these, this program, I think it's great. I think that people who are in the foster, I think everyone should be getting UBI. But people who are in the foster program who are left out of it, who leave after a time, they're at a fundamental disadvantage. They should be given that opportunity. They should be given that help. I don't know why we need a pilot on a very small level, in states. It's one of those things where, Vermont or one of the other states tried a universal health care thing, but it's too small to do on any scale where it makes a difference or where it works unless you do it nationally. Maybe a state can give some money to foster kids and that can work on a small level. But unless Democrats are willing to take a big shot, they didn't start Medicare on a state level. They didn't start Social Security on the state level.
Exactly.
So unless we want to wait another 10 years, we're not going to, these things aren't going to happen on the national level. And in terms of the first 100 days, we see Republicans in Georgia, Iowa, Pennsylvania, all these states using their power immediately to revoke voting rights, to get rid of absentee balloting, to get rid of, in Georgia, souls to the polls, the Sunday voting, the early voting. It's blatantly racist. They're not worried about, the politics of it, which are clearly terrible. They are bad politics. Republicans use absentee balloting all the time until 2020. They use their big lie to justify it. Republicans hate them, but they're willing to use power. They want to use power. They want to get more power for themselves. Democrats don't want to do that. So they can do all these pilot programs in small places and cities and, towns and state governments. But unless Democrats on the national level take action, expand voting rights, but do all these other things, it's never going to happen on the national level, no matter how many pilot programs and how many small successes they have.
I couldn't agree more. I think exactly that idea. It's like these little things can fail and be pointed to as failures when we know that that's the plan to begin with. That once you say that a program is not universal for even one person, immediately black people don't get it, right? It's sort of like when people complain, well, I don't want to pay for Donald Trump's kids to go to college. You're like, I am excited to pay for Donald Trump's kids to go to college because that is a tiny fraction of
you know what? If a rich kid loses his student debt, I'm fine with it. Get rid of student debt.
Well, it's just a ridiculous argument. This is actually something that if I could jump in and talk about Pennsylvania in particular, because I'm pretty much I know politics pretty well here, and let me just say that we won the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Their statewide elections, for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, their terms last 10 years, and a bunch of Republican judges were forced to step down because they were caught sending emails with racist jokes, like with Obama with a bone in his nose, bestiality porn from their official judge email account. So they were forced to step down. And we won these really great judges. And now we have a 5-2 majority on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. That's part of why, they were so mad about Pennsylvania, because those Democratic judges then went and protected voting rights in 2020. And so the Republican response to this is they want to gerrymander the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Instead of having 7 statewide judges, they want us to have 7 judicial districts and have judges represent a district so they can gerrymander 4 hardcore Republican leaning seats and then pack the 3 Democrats, have like a Pittsburgh seat, a Philadelphia seat, and maybe something like, the suburbs of Philadelphia. And then the rest of the state will be gerrymandered in a way that allows them to have a majority in this Pennsylvania Supreme Court. They don't care about democracy or anything. And they are going to do this constantly. In North Carolina, they want to pack the court. They've expanded the court in a number of other states at the state judicial level. So when they have the power and they need to pack the court, they immediately do. The Republicans would do that at the national level. If we ever got a majority on the Supreme Court, they would pack the court if they had the power to do so. All of these things, it's not a matter of like, if the Republicans would do it, they are limited by only one thing. Can they do it? If they can, they will. And I don't know what it's going to take to make Democrats realize that's the case. I believe that if we allow the Republicans to gerrymander after 2020, there is no way the Democrats are going to take power in Congress again, at least in my lifetime, barring some sort of huge result. Because in Pennsylvania, they already have a geographic advantage. Democrats tend to be more concentrated. And we have a test case here. Just to wrap it up, sorry for the long monologue, but in Pennsylvania,
no, it's okay.
In Pennsylvania, our Democratic Supreme Court threw out our congressional map back before 2020. And we picked up 4 seats from them drawing fair maps. They were not biased towards the Democrats. They were just fair. So it went from, then there's 18 Congress people that are elected in Pennsylvania in the House. It went from being a, 14-4 to 9-9. And it was pretty much the same performance as before. And you could do that, and they control the state legislatures and trifectas all over the country, and they're going to do that again. So Nancy Pelosi's majority is going to go out the window when they draw the maps new for the patterns of Democrats from the 2020 election, unless something is done immediately.
As famous boxer and convicted rapist Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Jordan, I want to give you the last word on what you think can actually be done in response to these things that Mike so eloquently tells us is going on, and then also make sure that you plug Progressives Everywhere newsletter, and Mike, also make sure that we talk about Central Committee.
I've actually been writing a lot about this on the Progressives Everywhere newsletter, progressiveseverywhere.substack.com. I talked a few weeks ago about packing the courts. I've been talking to people about expanding the Supreme Court. There's no reason why the Supreme Court has 9 justices. It used to correspond to lower courts, and they stopped doing that. And so there should be 13. There should be 13 seats on the Supreme Court. Democrats, all they have to do is get rid of the filibuster. They don't even have to pass a constitutional amendment. They can pass get rid of the filibuster, pass the Voting Rights Act, the John Lewis Act, the For the People Act, that gets rid of, it repopulates what the Voting Rights Act used to be and adds more protections. Then they can very easily, with the 50+1, expand the Supreme Court. And it is the only way, because the Supreme Court, the past one, just gutted the Voting Rights Act. It gutted, all those other things. And Clarence Thomas, in a decision released yesterday, it was a dissent, thankfully, but he wanted to question what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court did in 2020. So did Scalia, so did Gorsuch. So they don't care about even state Supreme Courts. They don't care about what the precedence is. They don't care about their so-called federalism. They don't care about any of that. They will undo any democracy they can. They will destroy every right to vote there possibly is. They do not care how unpopular it is, because they will choose their voters. And so Kyrsten Sinema can go ahead and block every reform. She can block every filibuster. But in Arizona, which is being, again, the state Supreme Court is now going to be gerrymandered. And the state Supreme Court is Republican. It is going to be gerrymandered on a legislative level and redistricted on a legislative level, even more so now that the Republicans have replaced the nonpartisan head of the redistricting committee with a person who leans to the right. She can do that. She can go filibuster all she wants. She's going to piss off the people who worked for 10 years to turn Arizona blue, all the Latino and union workers who turned Arizona blue. And then more laws to get rid of voting rights are being proposed in Arizona than anywhere else. So she's going to lose. 2024 she'll be done. So many Democrats will be done. In Georgia, there's no chance that they will win re-election if Republicans pass all these laws. So unless Democrats are willing to use power, they're not going to keep power. They are not going to be able to ever attain power again. And even if they're selfish, awful people in Congress, and I'm sure there's a lot of them like that, do it for your own good. Do it for your own good and retaining power, because otherwise you're done. The party's done. And that's going to be it.
Do it because it feels good.
Yeah.
Is maybe our final message.
Don't be afraid. Republicans aren't.
Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.